A new campaign ad out today from a super PAC that wants Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to run for president. It made its national debut this morning. Let's take a look.
Donald Trump is being attacked by a Democrat prosecutor in New York. So why is he spending millions attacking the Republican governor of Florida? Trump's stealing pages from the Biden-Pelosi playbook, repeating lies about Social Security. Trump should fight Democrats, not lie about Governor DeSantis. What happened to Donald Trump?
Joining us to talk about this, Al Franken, former U.S. Senator, and Scott Jennings, senior political commentator and former special assistant to President George W. Bush. Al, it was only a matter of time before these two started going after each other, and they seem to be doing that quite a bit now. Any thoughts on who comes out on top?
Well, right now, because of the indictment, a lot of, especially MAGA Republicans, but a lot of Republicans have come, to support President Trump, and DeSantis has gone down. That's on the first indictment. I don't know if that'll be the same on the fourth indictment. The thing about this ad, I notice, is it's kind of defensive. It's not him talking about anything he wants to do. It's about Social Security. And of course, Republicans have been all over the place on cutting this. Rick Scott, when he headed this Republican Senate campaign committee in the last cycle, said they were going to make cuts in Social Security and Medicare. Scalise and McCarthy have both talked about that. Then they've kind of reversed themselves, and you had that moment in the State of the Union speech where President Biden called them on it, and they said, "You lie," and of course he wasn't lying. And this seems to be a very defensive start to the DeSantis campaign.
And Scott, I mean, what do you think? Does this help Democrats to have Trump and DeSantis going at each other? It gives President Biden, a little more time to announce. Essentially, he can postpone that and let these guys duke it out.
Well, look, it's a primary, and just like the Democrats in 2020, I think we can expect these Republicans to go after each other a little bit. Donald Trump's never been a shrinking violet when it comes to lobbying attacks, and I don't think DeSantis is going to be either. The real strategic challenge for DeSantis here is that he's fighting off Trump, who's been attacking him, but he's also got the other problem of having to consolidate the non-Trump lane of this primary. So DeSantis is by far on top of that lane. But he still has a bunch of other people out there who are also trying to bring him down. So he's really kind of fighting a two-front war. He's certainly at the top of one side of it. But fighting off Donald Trump while you're trying to do that is no easy task. I thought this ad was good. I thought it helped reframe some of the attacks and push back against Trump. But he's going to have to keep doing that because Trump will be relentless in what he does to DeSantis here, I'm afraid.
And Al, I mean, we have another mass shooting in America. This time it's in Alabama. 15 teens shot, 4 dead. An Associated Press NORC poll last summer showed that 71% of respondents say U.S. gun laws should be stricter. Al, I know you have some strong thoughts on this. You've proposed an assault weapon buyback. What do you think? I mean, how much longer can the country wait before getting really serious on this issue?
I voted for an assault weapons ban. I voted for an assault weapons ban. And I think that Republicans are on the wrong side of this issue now, on the wrong side of a couple issues. This was, guns was kind of a single voter issue at one time. Pro-gun people, Republicans, that was their issue. And then there were single issue Republicans on abortion. And they wanted Roe ended, and Democrats weren't single issue on it, but now they are. And you saw that in Wisconsin, because once Dobbs happened, lots and lots of young people, lots of older women, lots of even Republicans. Now this is an issue for them, and you saw this in Wisconsin. There was a big. I think Republicans are in trouble on both of these issues.
Scott, what do you think? I mean, this latest mass shooting happened after an NRA convention in Indianapolis, where you saw several of the major Republican contenders all giving speeches. Are Republicans out of touch on this?
Well, first of all, Congress did pass some legislation in a bipartisan way last year. So I think the Congress at this point has gone as far as it's politically able to go. So it strikes me that any legislative action on this is going to take place at the state and local level for the foreseeable future. That's number one. Number two, yeah, there was a shooting in Alabama, but if I might just take a personal aside here and say, I'm sitting in Louisville. There was a mass shooting in Louisville last night. We had a bunch of people gathered in a public park, and
Right.
There was gunfire. 2 people died, several others were injured, and that comes on the heels of the other mass shooting at the bank that we had earlier this week, which also bookended several other shootings that happened in between. So this city in which I sit today has been erupting in gun violence this week, and the people here are on edge about it. Just like people everywhere are on edge about it. Not all these crimes are the same, not all the criminals are the same, and maybe not all the solutions are the same, but it's a rising issue in American politics. Both parties have a responsibility. I don't have all the answers, but I get a strong feeling that Congress is going to be not moving on this, and so at the state level, to me, that's where the next set of actions are going to come, Jim.
Is it a good idea for all
But
these
you have to
Republican
remember
contenders
that-
to go to an NRA convention, do you think, Scott?
Well, look, Republicans believe that it's people and criminals that are the problem. Democrats believe it's guns that are the problem. And I don't think that's going to change. And so the two parties are fairly well set in their philosophies about what the root of this issue is. And they just really aren't all that close together on it. So I don't expect Republicans to stop campaigning on gun rights. I mean, being a supporter of the Second Amendment has been a pillar of the Republican Party for quite some time. No, that's not going to change between now and the next election.
Al, last word to you.
You can support the Second Amendment. You can support the Second Amendment and not be for these assault weapons that are really machines of war. And we're not talking about banning guns. We're talking about, and you're talking about states, Scott, making laws. Well, basically, the Supreme Court limited what states can do in their last session. That was a terrible decision that the court made, and it's going to limit what states can do. Has to be done in Congress.
All right. Al Franken, Scott Jennings, it's an issue that is not going away because these shootings keep happening. That is for sure. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.